So you're staring at your fantasy football roster and you got some big names there. But do you keep them, trade them, or cut them based off of their performance so far? That's what we're talking about today. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Jake, Fantasy Headliners. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there. Today we're going to be doing a little keep, trade, cut. You probably got some big names on your fantasy roster and you don't know if you need to hang on to them. Are they finally going to break out at some point? Or are they overperforming and you want to try to sell them high and trade them to somebody else in your league and get maximum value? That's what we're going to be talking about today. I got a list of guys here that are owned in every single league pretty much. But what do we do with these guys going forward? That's what we're talking about today. Trying to keep it quick for you. Let's get right into the list. All right, by a show of hands, who is frustrated with Jordan Howard? Raise your hand. Yes, I am too. Jordan Howard is absolutely irritating everybody that owns him in fantasy football right now. And I really don't understand why. This Bears offense, of almost any offense in football, is trending up week by week. Everybody in that offense is taking a step forward, except for Jordan Howard. He's basically walking backwards at this point. Has produced very little year-to-date so far, only one touchdown on the ground. He has been getting the volume, but he's starting to see those touches slip and go more towards Tariq Cohen's way. So what do we do with Jordan Howard going forward? We obviously can't just cut him. Somebody's going to pick him up, and if somebody picks him up and he goes off, you're going to hate yourself and your hair will turn gray. I'm trying to trade Jordan Howard right now, or at least package him in a deal. You're not going to get top value for Jordan Howard because he hasn't done a whole lot to produce any value as of yet. You need to sell him on things in the future. Hey, he's got the 7th easiest strength of schedule remaining this season. The cold weather months are coming. When the weather gets bad in Chicago, they're going to have to rely more on the run. These are the type of things you need to use in a trade deal to try to get something out of Jordan Howard before it's too late. If he goes out there the next couple of weeks and doesn't produce, you're basically stuck with him for the rest of the season and you're going to have to just ride it out. I'm trying to trade him, trying to package him with maybe another wide receiver too, and trying to see if I can get some type of upgrade at the wide receiver or running back position. He still has some name value, but it's shrinking and it's shrinking quickly. Make sure you maximize whatever you can get out of him now, and I'm trying to trade Jordan Howard. In what could be one of the best players on one of the worst teams in football, now we're going to talk about LeSean McCoy of the Buffalo Bills. And if you have LeSean McCoy, you probably really regret drafting LeSean McCoy. He's been frustrating to say the least. That whole team has been frustrating to say the least, and I really don't see things improving at this point. Would you have believed me if 7 weeks ago I told you that LeSean McCoy would be outrushed by the likes of Derrick Henry or Royce Freeman? Probably not. But it's reality now, and LeSean McCoy, he's fighting an uphill battle. His names have been in trade rumors here recently, and if he could get out of Buffalo, he could really produce some solid numbers. But as of right now, there's no moves for him going anywhere. I know the Eagles were mentioned slightly. Doesn't sound like that's going to go through. But LeSean McCoy going forward is somebody I really don't want to deal with on a week-by-week basis on my fantasy football team. He has scored double-digit points the past 2 weeks, 12 points a game, the last 2 in PPR leagues. He's yet to break 85 yards rushing. He's only got no rushing touchdowns on the season. He's just struggling in that offense, and I don't blame him. That offense is absolutely horrible, especially if we're going forward with Nathan Peterman or whatever's going on in Buffalo. It's disgusting. Now, you can't just cut LeSean McCoy. Somebody's going to end up picking him up. Kind of similar we talked about with Jordan Howard. You need to try to trade LeSean McCoy. But the issue with this is you're not going to get, fair value for McCoy at this point. You're going to have to package him more than likely. Maybe there's somebody out there willing to take a chance, and you can go out there and get yourself one of these pass-catching backs, one of the Austin Ecklers, Phillip Lindsay's, something like that as a part of a package for LeSean McCoy. You're not going to go in and return RB2 value, low-end RB1 value. You're going to have to try to make your team deeper as a whole because LeSean McCoy is just not pulling the value that he needs to at this point. But I am actively trying to trade him if I can in my fantasy football league. Now, I'm not just giving him away for nothing, but I'm trying to get something before it's too late. Because here in a few weeks, nobody's going to want him, and you're going to be stuck with him. I'm for sure trying to trade LeSean McCoy. On to the saga that is the Tennessee Titans, and let's talk about Dion Lewis. I think at this point, Derrick Henry's been dropped in a lot of leagues. People are done dealing with the whole Derrick Henry experiment. But let's talk about Dion Lewis, because for a while here, We all thought Dion Lewis was going to have value, especially in PPR leagues. You know, even if he wasn't carrying the ball 10, 15 times a game, at least he'd be so involved in the passing game that it would make up the difference. Well, that's only happened in week 1 and week 4. Outside of that, he hasn't really been involved in the passing game either. The whole offense as a whole in Tennessee has been frustrating and boring to watch, you know, with the exception of a few flashes here or there. Right now, I'm done with Dion Lewis. If there's somebody on the waiver wire with high upside, I'm grabbing him. I'm not going to continue to roster Dion Lewis in a league where I'm probably not going to use him. Now, am I going to just drop him for some no-name guy on the waiver wire? Probably not. But if there is another option out there, I'm not going to continue to hold on to hope in an offense that's going to continue to struggle. I would cut Dion Lewis if there's an option on the waiver wire. Next one is near and dear to my heart. We're going to talk about Larry Legend, Larry Fitzgerald of the Arizona Cardinals. And as much as it pains my heart to say this, we have reached the point where it is okay to cut Larry Fitzgerald. And I hate to say it, the guy still has the talent. He's been injured here for a few weeks, but him and Rosen just can't get on the same page. And all of a sudden, Christian Kirk looks like the wide receiver in this offense that Rosen is looking to more often. Larry Fitzgerald's best game of the year came week 1 when he had 7 catches for 76 yards. Since then, he hasn't topped 39 yards in a game, and it's getting very frustrating to own him. There are a ton of wide receivers, more than likely available on your waiver wire right now. One of them that I talked about in my waiver wire video is Taylor Gabriel. Right now, I would rather roster Taylor Gabriel than Larry Fitzgerald. And I know that sounds crazy. We're talking about a future Hall of Famer. The numbers just aren't there right now, and I'm looking for production on my bench. I need that depth at wide receiver. There's too many options out there right now, and I'm going to cut Larry Fitzgerald. I'm sorry, Larry. One of the most popular guys on this list is going to be Alvin Kamara, and what do we do with him? A lot of people are panicking because what happened in week 5 before the bye week, when he had a whole 6 fantasy points, 6 carries for 24 yards, 3 catches for 15, and everybody is freaking out. Don't freak out on Alvin Kamara and don't sell him. I'm keeping Alvin Kamara. You guys need to realize, remember last year when Mark Ingram was there, they were able to coexist just fine. Kamara is not the type of guy that needs to go out there and get 20 to 25 touches to be productive. Last year, that great season that he had, he was only touching the ball anywhere from 13 to 18 times a game, and he was still overly productive, and somebody was helping people win fantasy football championships. Here's the problem with Alvin Kamara. We all got kind of spoiled the first 4 weeks with his production. Twice in the first 4 weeks in PPR leagues, he had 40-plus points, and that's because he's touching the ball over 20-plus times a game. That's not going to happen with Mark Ingram. We can't expect 40-point weeks every single week. What we can expect is a heavy dose of Alvin Kamara on most weeks. Do not sell Alvin Kamara. Hang on to him for the long run. He's somebody who's going to carry you on a weekly basis from time to time. Partly with this whole issue with week 5 was game script related. They got a big lead and didn't go out there and overwork him. They knew that they'd given him a bunch of work the first 4 weeks, and they somewhat throttled him back and rested him before the bye week. I look for Alvin Kamara to come right back out of the gate here after the bye week, getting close to his 15 touches a week and being overly productive in this offense with Drew Brees. I'm absolutely 100% keeping Alvin Kamara and not letting go of him. In the category of most unpopular player probably on this list, let's talk about Doug Baldwin, who really irritated owners here early in the season with a lack of production and a lack of playing time. But I said it in last week's live show that I did. I am still keeping Doug Baldwin. I'm trying to buy him low wherever I can. I said that the beginning of this offense was going to start running through Doug Baldwin. They're going to try to ease him back into the game plan. They're not going to all of a sudden abandon him altogether for just Tyler Lockett. And you started to see it this week when they were on the road in London against the Raiders. Came out 6 catches for 91 yards, 15 fantasy points in PPR leagues, and it was his best game of the year by far. He was heavily targeted in the game, and it's going to consistently grow from here. Now, he is on the bye week this week. They have no games. He's going to have that opportunity to get 100% healthy, come back, and he's going to be featured in this offense with the Seattle Seahawks. I am keeping Doug Baldwin, not selling him, because the breakout, if you want to call it a breakout for Doug Baldwin, is coming the second half of this fantasy football season. And those of you who were able to buy low or hung with him and stashed him to the end, you could reap the benefits for it here in the coming weeks. What about Rob Gronkowski? There's people out there that are actually disappointed with what he's doing so far this year, and I understand. It's because the touchdowns that we're normally accustomed to with Rob Gronkowski are just not there. He's only got one on the season. His best game of the season was back in Week 1 against Houston, where he had 7 catches, 123 yards, and a touchdown. Since then, he hasn't broken 100 yards. He did just get 3 catches for 97 against the Chiefs this past week, most of which came there in the fourth quarter. But we can't give up on Rob Gronkowski. If this position was deeper in fantasy football, if there were more options, then I would consider selling him based off of his name value alone. The problem is, unless you have another one of these top tight ends on your roster, you giving up Gronk is basically sacrificing your tight end on a weekly basis. At least with Gronk healthy, now you have that potential ceiling of an astronomical number. If you replace him with somebody who's just a streaming option, a hit and miss, you could go out there and get yourself a big fat 0 on game day, and that's a big risk to take. I'm keeping Rob Gronkowski. The touchdowns will come. Yes, it does slightly hurt his value now that Julian Edelman is back and that Josh Gordon is in the mix. James White's a big part of this offense, but it's still Rob Gronkowski, and he's healthy. I'm keeping him for the long haul and hoping that the touchdowns come here the second half of the season. Do not sell Rob Gronkowski unless you get yourself a top tight end in return along with another player. Dalvin Cook next on the list, and that's when we all say because he makes us sick to our stomach every time we hear his name because he's done nothing but irritate us. And it's largely in part due to injury, all different kinds of injuries, not just the knee that he dealt with last year. But here's the problem with Dalvin Cook. You're going to have a hard time getting any value out of Dalvin Cook because he hasn't really done anything this year, and people are relating it to a serious injury of last year. He's lost a ton of his value, but you can't just cut him. Right now, I'm hoping that they just rest him, let him get healthy, let these soft tissue injuries heal, and hopefully I have him for a late second half run in my fantasy football league. Right now, honestly, I'm not expecting consistent production out of Dalvin Cook until after their bye week, which is right now week 10. Week 11, they play the Chicago Bears, but after that, I'm hoping he can turn things around, stashing him for the long haul, keeping my fingers crossed, and hopefully he can carry me towards the fantasy playoffs. Last but not least is going to be Le'Veon Bell of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I kind of enjoy this topic now. I was pretty much hated there in the preseason for a few weeks because I was telling people to avoid him on draft day, that he was going to sit out and miss games, and everybody told me I was crazy. Well, here we are, going into the bye week for the Steelers in week 7, and as of this recording, he still hasn't shown up yet. But does he show up going forward? To me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. What would he have accomplished by sitting out for 6 weeks other than just losing money if he didn't get anything out of the deal? At this point, I'm not expecting a whole lot from Le'Veon Bell, even if he does show up. He hasn't been in game speed. He hasn't been involved in the game plan. James Conner is producing somewhat inconsistently, but still producing elite numbers at times. If he does come back, James Conner's still going to be involved. Le'Veon Bell would need a few weeks to get back, accustomed to the game flow. And that's even saying he comes out and actually gives a crap for the year and tries to put forth 100%. I just don't see it. He even commented on the tweet with the whole Earl Thomas injury. When Earl Thomas didn't have a contract, went out there, got hurt, and now he's sacrificed a future deal. And Le'Veon Bell then tweeted afterwards how, I'm going to continue to be the bad guy for us. And now all of a sudden he's just going to show up. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Listen, I know there's credible sources that are saying he's coming back, and I'm not calling those guys a liar by any means. I just don't understand the whole gist of it. But as far as keep, trade, or cut Le'Veon Bell, I'm trading him. I want nothing to do with him. Right now, you may be able to get more from him because of all these reports coming out saying, hey, he's coming back. People are probably going to start paying more premium of $1 for him because they think they're going to see immediate production. I'm not buying the immediate production. He's got a long ways to go. We saw it at the beginning of the last year when he sat out preseason. He's going to take a little bit of time to get going if he ever does get going. Sell him high. Sell him while you can. Get what you can for him. And I'm moving on. No interest in Le'Veon Bell going forward for me. All right, so there's a list of a few big-name guys that we need to decide whether we need to keep, trade, or cut them. But this is entirely your decision. This is what I would do with these players. I'm supplying some perspective to you guys to help you make these difficult decisions. And I'm sure there's other names out there that you have questions about. Go ahead, throw them down in the comments section. I'll do my best to get to you. If I don't, we have a community of almost 24,000 people willing to give you some of their advice, some of their perspectives to make these decisions a little bit easier. That's part of the reason we love having such a large community over there. You know, sometimes you just need a reassuring voice to reassure maybe some thoughts that you already had. That's what we're all about here. Really appreciate you guys' support, though. Make sure you guys are liking and subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks. Have a good one. Bye.